New York Times, putting Goldman Sachs in the role of becoming a punchline. That Goldman letter is sparking some heated debate right now. Should Wall Street be focused on its clients or making money? And are they mutually exclusive? Joining us on the phone with his take is Barry Holtz. He's a director of equity research at Fusion IQ. Barry, when you went to work on Wall Street, did you think you were serving the greater good? Did you think you were there to make money?
Well, it depends on which side of the street I was on. When I was on the sell side, you don't have a fiduciary obligation, and the firm's target was always to maximize revenue and profits. Once you go to the buy side, suddenly the SEC puts a fiduciary obligation on you, which is a good thing because it puts the client's interest first. It puts the client's interest ahead of profits. And so the perspective changed, and I found it to be a refreshing shift.
Well, for Greg Smith, who was in London basically trying to sell U.S. products to clients, he seemed horrified after 12 years of work at Goldman Sachs. When you read his op-ed, what did you think?
You know, when we initially got the gestalt of the moment from Matt Taibbi with the great vampire squid imagery,
right.
It raised all sorts of suspicions, and it kind of made people wonder, is it really as bad and cutthroat at Goldman as I imagine? And I think what Smith's op-ed did was just confirm a lot of people's worst suspicions. Hey, the place is really profit first. But the thing I really want to emphasize, and I think a lot of people are misunderstanding, Goldman was once a partnership. They're now a publicly traded bank. Like Merrill and Morgan and SocGen and Deutsche Bank and everybody else. So even though they lost about $3 billion in market cap yesterday, I don't really see them losing a lot of clients. Where are they going to go? To the choir boys at Morgan Stanley or to the philanthropic organization known as Deutsche Bank? Every derivatives desk is just like this. It's about profits first. They sell complex, opaque products, and that rarely works in the client's benefit.
Right. I mean, the idea it was a Bear Stearns mantra, wasn't it? Be long-term greedy, right? But what you're saying is there's almost too much of a focus on the short term these days.
Well, once you go public, when you're a partnership, when you're a private group, you have lots and lots of priorities, and you have all these rules of behavior and your principles. Once you go public, all those take a back seat, and there is one rule, and that's make the quarterly number, hit your revenue target, hit your profit target, or the street's going to punish us. And in that environment, genteel concepts like corporate culture, they sort of fall by the wayside.
Well, I mean, this really went viral. Not only because, yes, we in the financial media were covering it, but this went mainstream, Barry. Why do you think that this is ginning up such furor and such interest? I mean, your average person on Main Street still can't tell you what it is that Goldman Sachs does.
Well, I think people have been ripe for stuff like this because it doesn't seem anybody from Wall Street who helped create the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, it doesn't seem like anybody's been punished. So I always thought the subtext of both the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street was, why is there no justice? Why have the wrongdoers not been brought to trial for this? But, there was a sentence in his op-ed that really leapt out to me, and it was about, the culture at Goldman Sachs was the secret sauce that made it great. And allowed us to earn the client's trust for, 100+ years. It wasn't just about making money. And I think it was filled with lines like that, and they very much resonated.
Would this have been published by the New York Times if it were about General Motors, if it were about, a company that makes widgets, being too focused on profits and not focused enough on their clients?
It's funny because we saw the same thing with TechCrunch, and then not too long ago, we saw, recently, we saw something on the Microsoft network titled "Why I Left Google" by James Whitaker.
Yeah,
so these have been around, and they've online constantly. And my favorite parody yesterday was from Darth Vader, "Why I Left the Empire." But, you know, the finance sector has been in the news more than anything else over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
There's still the sense that you speak to the average person walking down the street, and while a lot of the data is improving, there's still this hangover sensation. There's still this feeling that we're not over the massive credit bubble and crisis and everything that took place. So bankers in general and Goldman Sachs in particular, and ironically, Goldman wasn't anywhere near the worst offender in the crisis. You have to put Lehman, AIG, Bear Stearns at the top of the heap. And if anything, Goldman survived better than most because they hedged and got out of their way, often to their clients' detriment.
Barry, would you hire him? Would you hire Greg Smith?
We don't do derivative trading, so he wouldn't really help what we do.
As your moral compass?
You know, I'm not sure. That's a really interesting question. It's when you have somebody who leaves in such a visual fashion, you know, the rule on Wall Street is when you're interviewing, the question always comes up, why did you leave your old job? And there are these standard answers, which are things like, well, I was looking for more experience, I wanted a greater challenge, you know, all these nonsense lies. But you never say, because my boss was such a jerk and his partner was a bigger idiot. I mean, that's sort of interview suicide. So he not only left Goldman Sachs, you get the sense that he was planning on leaving the industry.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where he turns up, Barry. Thanks
I think he comes back to New York tonight. Well, it'll be interesting to see if people hunt him down at the airport for interviews.
No, it's just a matter who finds him first. We got to leave it there. Take care. When we come back, we'll talk more about what's happening in Silicon Valley. More angry op-eds this time for some of the tech giants. Stay with us.